ladies and gentlemen. So, I'm recording, so this is going to sound a little repetitive for a second. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not going to be here tomorrow, which means that I've recorded 2 lectures today. In 4th period, I recorded lecture number 1. This is technically lecture number 2. So, because you are currently living lecture number 2, you should watch lecture number 1 tomorrow. So we're going to have just a little bit of an overlap, and then we're going to continue into new content. Then you'll watch lecture 1, and you'll be able to finish your notes. Is everyone clear on how this works? With that being said, I'm going to cover all the content today. I came today. I called my mother-in-law at 4:30 this morning, and she came down so I could be here with you, because there's no videos I can reference for you guys because I've never taught this content. She may not be that happy with me, but that's okay. Anyway, with that being said, the instructions are on the board. Put on your headphones, get to work. If you decide you don't want to watch the lecture in class, then you can work on your assignments in class. Everyone has something to do. You have a test on Thursday. It does not matter that I am not here tomorrow. We continue the plan. We continue the pattern. Everyone good? I will also tell you that because I'm not here, I'm being even more generous than I usually am. I've already posted the PowerPoint, which I always double check to make sure my PowerPoint has everything covered for the test, which is already on Canvas. And my notes and my questions will be more generous than you think. We're going to start with a review on boards, and then we're going to start lecture number 2. On your whiteboard, write House and Senate on your boards, and we're going to put a star next to one of them. Grant. There's probably one on the floor around you. Oh, perfect. What do you mean? I don't have a board. You mean the one that's sitting next to you on the ledge? Oh. On your whiteboard, next to House or Senate, put a star next to the correct answer. Which one has the largest population of members? Board. Which one has more power? Selena. Senate. Which one is known as the workhorse? David. Which one has 4-year terms? No, 6-year terms. Sorry, that was a lie. Alex. Which one does tax revenue have to be decided in? Nice. Brooklyn. House. He's so proud of himself. You should see how proud he is. On your whiteboard, please tell me which one is the more prestigious house. Good. Riley. Senate. On your whiteboard, please tell me which one has 2-year terms. Katie. House. On your whiteboard, please tell me which one. Never mind, whiteboard. Here we go. Actually, no, I got it. Which one benefits or is negatively affected, depending on which side you're on, with gerrymandering? Good. Reagan. The House. Wipe your board. Here we go. How many seats are in the House? Good. Britt. How many are in the Senate? Good. Grant. 100. On your whiteboard, please tell me what is the name of Please tell me, what is the fancy term for 2 chambers that have different structures and roles? Good. Caesar. There you go. On your whiteboard, please tell me which one is based on equal representation of the voter. Good. Ford. No. Which one is based on, equal representation, is that what I said? Yeah, it's the Senate. Sorry. On your whiteboard, please tell me which one is based on equal representation of each voter. Based on voter. Good. What we got? Desmond. House of Representatives. On your whiteboard, gerrymandering is when you manipulate voting what? Gerrymandering is when you manipulate voting what? Sophia? Districts. On your whiteboard, please tell me, true or false, What is it called when we refer to both the House and the Senate together? There's two terms you need to know. What are those two terms? When we refer to the House and the Senate together, there are two terms. If you have one term on your board, you're doing it wrong. Good. Alex?
Congress and legislature.
There you go. Congress and the legislature are the two terms we're talking about, both of them combined. True or false? The House and the Senate are in competition with each other. True or false? Britt? False. Sometimes they oppose each other, but essentially they're supposed to be assisting each other. True or false? Congress is responsible for creating a post office. Good. Ian? True. On your whiteboard, please tell me what part of the Constitution is responsible for the creation of Congress. Good. Jimmy? Article 1. On your whiteboard, please tell me what is the largest increase to federal funding has come from what type of programs? Starts with an E, and it's like food stamps and unemployment. Good. Jack? There you go. Entitlement programs. Jake, I'm sorry, I called you Jack. I'm so sorry, Jake. Jake, I know it's Jake. Entitlement programs. Entitlement programs are like food stamps, Medicare, and unemployment. Okay? On your whiteboard, the largest source of federal revenue is what kind of taxes? Don't tell me taxes. Yeah. Brooklyn. Income taxes. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, please listen. We are picking up at lecture 2, yes? So I'm going to finish something in this video that you will start in the second video. I know, it's not ideal, but neither is Hank being sick. Can we agree? So, we are going to be dealing with whips, okay? So, I know, this is not what you're thinking, but the first video will pick up here. I don't know if you want to skip like 2 pages and kind of go, or skip a page. I don't know how you want to do it. Okay, so let me kind of give you a brief heads up. There is this wonderful flow chart that you will see in video 1, where we are talking about the hierarchy of each house. Now, inside this flow chart, we have majorities and minorities. When we talk about majority, this is the party that's in power. When we're talking about minorities, we're talking about the second tier, okay? So, it is really important for you to understand majority means they have the power, and it typically flips every 2 years, because every 2 years we have elections, specifically in the House of Representatives, but every two years we have movement in the Senate as well. Okay, whip. We have, when we're talking about House Majority Leader, this is where we're going to start because the first video picks up right here. Okay? Majority House Leader has control over the dominant party. Okay? So, the House tells you what chambers. This is obviously the House of Representatives. Majority tells you that they're in power, and this is the head of that party. Now, they have control, and they are trying to push their party's objectives. That's the big component. They're trying to push their party's objectives. Now, I'm telling you this. On both sides of this chart, it's the same wording, just in different chambers. Is everyone clear on that? So when you talk about majority leader of the House, there's also a majority leader in the... There you go. So it's the same. When we say whip, House Majority Whip, or House Minority Whip, when whip is mentioned, W-H-I-P, write it down. There's a majority and a minority. 1 in the House, well, 2 in the House, 2 in the Senate. When we have a whip, they are responsible for counting the votes ahead of voting procedure. So say, for instance, here at Plan High School, we're passing a law about whether we should have pizza served on Friday or Chinese food. Okay? Honestly, I would go Chinese food. Love it. It's a little unique. I'm totally down for it. Pizza's a little overplayed in my book. Love it, but overplayed. Here we go. We are going to have a vote, and Ford was going to be our whip. He would go and ask every single one of you what you're voting so he could have a predictive idea of if the measure is going to pass or not. So, Ford is our whip. He's going to go around and ask you doing Chinese or pizza? You doing Chinese or pizza? So he'd have an informal count. And then he'd go to Brooklyn, our majority leader, and say, dude, Chinese food's going to get it, pizza's not. So then they could decide if they're going to put pressure on people to switch their votes. So it's about trying to predict as much as they can. Whips are the most influential people because of the influence they assert. They're the real workhouses of Congress, the whips. They're like some of the most highly respected people. Because of the influence they assert. So Jordan, if the majority wants Chinese food and you're defiant on getting pizza, I'm going to publicly shame you until you do it. That's what the whip's job is. They're going to pull whatever you like and try to flip your vote. Because they're trying to wrangle their party into doing whatever they do. That's what a whip does. They have them both minority and majority parties. They have them both the House and the Senate. Okay? These are the real workhouses of Congress. They have whiteboards and they're tracking every single vote. House of Cards on Netflix. Have you seen it with Kevin Spacey? This is before he was known as like a sexual predator. This is when everyone loved Kevin Spacey. The first season is amazing because Kevin Spacey is the whip of the majority party, and he's like doing all the shady shit to try to get this thing passed. Like it's insane. Yes.
So they like unify their parties?
Yes. Under the will of whatever the majority leaders want. Yes.
So is there people in like the House that like their side? Like
You mean independents?
yeah, it's like who tries to gather their votes?
So both sides are trying to persuade them, but no one is in charge of them because they're independents, and they're so few. There's really no. They need them for breaking the line. Like right now, all the independents matter. So both the Republicans and the Democrats are trying to sway them one way or the other, but they're very unpredictable because they're independent. But they're teeny tiny little margins, so we don't really talk about them when we're talking about the big concepts. David, did you have a question?
So these are like Republicans and the Democrats?
Yes, of course, but whether they're majority or minority is what counts. So right now, the Democrats are the majority in both houses, but by slim margins. There's
Right.
no comfort.
So do they have like, so does that mean like the Republican one can't like do anything?
No, they can. They can try to steal people away from stuff and kind of push people away, and kind of make them say annoying things in the corner to change other people's minds and stuff like that. There's plenty of manipulation and shady shit that goes down in the halls of Congress. I hope this doesn't surprise you, does it? On both sides. On both sides. So, when we're talking about minority and majority, you need to know that both parties in both houses are working together. So if you're a Democrat in the House, you're working together with Democrats in the Senate. If you're a Republican in the House, you're working with Republicans in the... So just because you're in different chambers, you're all still trying to work together. Like right now, the Democrats are in power, so the Republicans are trying to sabotage pretty much everything the Democrats are doing. When Trump was in power, what were the Democrats doing? Trying to sabotage as much as what the Republicans were doing as well. Okay, so they are working together. Okay, important roles in the Senate. Here we go. The Vice President of the United States is responsible for the Senate. That is Kamala's job. Now, it's not her only job, but it is her job. She does not spend every day in the Senate because she has like other things to do, but she is there for pretty much every vote. She is the tiebreaker. Okay? You need to know that. So, the President of the Senate is the Vice President. They are the tiebreaker, and they are responsible for overseeing the productivity of the Senate. Now, the president pro tempore is going to be the most senior member of the majority party. Don't ask me who it is right now. I don't know. I have a sick kid at home. I don't know. It's some old dude. I can tell you that. Huh?
Really.
Really old, because like our Senate, like the average age is like 74 or something. Okay. Now, President pro tempore only fills in when the vice president's not there, which is pretty frequently, but it's mostly ceremonial. They're the ones like hitting the gavel and shit. I mean, that'd be pretty cool. I don't know about you, but that's like pretty cool. Okay. Now, it is the same thing in the Senate from the House. We have Senate majority leaders who are calling the shots of a majority party in the Senate, same as we did in the House. We have a Senate minority, a majority whip, who is counting the votes to try to predict how people are going to vote and to see if they have the votes. Okay? All of those things are happening. Okay? Same type of thing. If it's a whip, they're counting votes to see if they can predict and manipulating people into doing what they need to. If they're a leader, they're the ones deciding which bills go. Same. Now, committee chairperson is a new title you haven't seen. Okay. Committee chairperson are committee heads. They lead committees. Now you're like, well, what are committees? Oh my God, I'm teaching next. Thank you for asking. Okay, put a big star. Committees are how business gets done in Congress. Committees are how business gets done in Congress. When we think about Congress, we typically think of big legislative sessions, right? When we look at Congress on the State of the Union, everyone's in their seats watching the president talk, yes? Okay, that's not normal. There's two chambers, the House and the Senate. Most times, senators and congressmen are not in their seats. They're in smaller group rooms where they're working through bills, oversight, and all these other things. That's what we call committees. They only do sitting in those big chambers for debates and voting, which is actually not a ton of time. Because most of the time they're crafting these bills or editing these bills. So keep that in mind. So, rules for the Senate is where we are now. Rules for the Senate. Debate in the Senate has no limits. Debate in the Senate has no limit. Why? Why? Why do you think it's there, Desmond?
No clue.
Well, why, if it's only in the Senate, why don't they have unlimited debate in the House?
Because there's too many people in the
There's too many people in the
House.
House. It would take forever for things to get done. And they are there to get work done, yes? Not to sit down and have theoretical arguments. The Senate is all about having theoretical arguments where they argue back and forth about the biggest topics of the day and work together to come across with a bill that everyone can sign. So it has unlimited debate time, so there is no rush to get laws passed. Okay? Now, we do have filibusters, and this is very controversial in 2022. Okay? People, it's a topic that's becoming more and more popular, whether we should or should not have the filibuster. It is a tactic to delay a vote on a bill okay? It is a way to delay a vote on a bill and tie up the work of the Senate. Just like everything else, there's momentum. If a bill is going to pass, it has to have momentum. If it falls out of the headlines, is the bill going to pass? If there's no one pushing the bill, is it going to pass? So if Congress members or senators stand in front of the Senate and speak for 15 hours, does it kill momentum? Yes, and that's the filibuster, and it's been a big deal. Okay, now, you need to know that earmarks, this term, are when senators defer money to different allocations. You need to know that term. An allocation, oh my gosh, there. Okay? Earmarks are when senators push money to new allocations. So say we have $400 million of this new tax revenue. They're going to earmark $1 million of it to build a new post office in Jordan's hometown. That's an earmark. Okay? Earmarks are taking something that's not particularly included in the bill and adding it to the bill to get it done. Why would we do that? Why would we allow Jordan to get a new post office? Riley? Yeah, Jordan needs a new post office. We'll build her a post office as long as she signs the bill and we can get like Medicare for all or whatever. Okay? So, earmarks are done to get senators to vote and add it. Is it a good look or a bad look? Yeah, because it kind of costs the government more money, which means more tax money goes to pet projects. Is that ideal? Now, are the people in Jordan's town thrilled about their new post office? It's going to be state of the art. It's going to be fancy, fancy. Okay, but for the rest of us paying that tab, it's not a great look. Now, pork barrel legislation, ladies and gentlemen, is a big term that you need to know. Yes, sir?
So would an earmark be like something that a would?
Yes, absolutely. Oh my God, David, yes, that's amazing. Yeah, it's the wits who are promising the earmarks. Okay, Jordan, you said no to Chinese, but we need Chinese. You need $1 million. I'll give you $1 million if you sign this damn thing. Okay? Whips are the ones absolutely doing that. Thank you, David. Okay. So, pork barrel legislation is the use of federal funding to finance localized projects. Earmarks and pork barrel are one of the same. Okay? They're very similar. Small projects are earmarks. Big projects are pork. Pork barrel means if we are trying to get Grant to vote for Chinese food, and he says we need to buy him a new pair of Jordans that cost $200, that's an investment. That's pork barrel legislation. Now, pork barrel is large investments in local communities so the politician can get reelected. Write that down. Pork barrel legislation is all about getting the politician reelected. For instance, if we could get one of our national politicians, one of ours in the center of the House, to fix the streets in Tampa, would that person get reelected in Tampa? To stop all the flooding? Hell yeah. But that would take probably $150 million to really redo all the roads. That would be pork barrel legislation. That's a ton of money for one specific project. But it would guarantee that person would get reelected, which is why it's called pork barrel. Okay. Put a big star. Bills that leave the House. Bills that leave the House and then get signed into law by the Senate are usually totally different because of the pork and earmarks. So, a bill that has passed the House that's now sitting in the Senate is going to change dramatically because of pork and earmarks. Okay? And that's a big difference. Now, to get the bill through the House, what do they do a lot of? Earmarks and pork. So all of our laws are filled with lots and lots of money that are going to a random project, okay? And that's how things get done. Alright, so committees, ladies and gentlemen, committees is where we are. Alright, committees are where legislative work gets done. This is where real things are happening, and this is where you want to be. You do not have power in Washington unless you're in a committee. So, there are 4 major committees. The first one is a standing committee. Put a star next to it. You're going to see a bunch of questions about standing committees on your test. A standing committee is a legislative panel with oversight responsibilities. It is a legislative panel with oversight responsibilities. What is oversight? Caesar, what's oversight?
When the government looks over state money, how they spend it.
Yeah, how they spend money. Okay? So, if the federal government is paying $400 for every toilet seat it puts in federal buildings, is that a good price? No, that means someone's probably profiting about $350 per toilet seat. Imagine how many toilet seats are there? That's a lot of money. That's oversight. Checking to see where the money is actually going. Standing committee examples are the Armed Services Committee, which is one of the highest ones. You get to know like all the super cool shit, like where we're bombing, who we're going after, what major coups are happening. They found out about the Queen dying way before we did, like all this stuff. Okay? Then the Appropriations Committee. They're the ones who do the federal budget. They get to decide what money is going where. Those are standing committees. Those are also the 2 highest standing committees. Your next committee are subcommittees. These are formed to investigate specific topics. So for instance, there was a subcommittee on whether we should increase the drinking age in the United States. They formed a subcommittee, they looked at all the research, and then our politicians got together and decided what age should be selected. And what age should they pick, people? 21. Okay? They looked at all the research, they compared it with different countries, and they made that decision. The next committee is our select committees. Select committees are temporary committees with limited purpose. Which one is going on now? That is very famous and is getting tons of publicity. The January 6th one, okay? The January 6th one is only looking at January 6th and how that happened, okay? That's a select committee. You need to know that your committee placement is based on seniority. Grant, what's seniority? Seniority.
Chairs of congressional committees are people who have been there the longest.
Are you okay? I know this isn't very exciting. We're almost done. Okay? Seniority. The people who have been in Congress the longest get the best positions. Does that mean the most qualified are doing it? There's pros and cons to it. Desmond.
President Pro Tempore, is that like age, or is it?
It's about who's been in there the longest. Now keep in mind, most of our senators are in their 70s, and we don't really vote for 70-year-old people for the first time to go to Congress. So if they're in the 70s, they probably got in their 40s and have just been sitting in there for 30-something years. Yeah. We have old people in our Congress.
How old is the Florida?
Huh?
How old is the Florida senators?
I don't know. I mean, we have the bald guy. They're like in their 40s, 50s, Rick Scott. And then Marco Rubio. Okay. Congressional committees are managed by the majority party. So if you're the majority party, do you have a lot of power or a little power? A lot of power. So, congressional committees are controlled by the majority. Every 2 years, typically, the majority swings. So every 2 years, there's new people in these committees. Now, the fourth one is a joint committee. Joint committee is both House and Senate. Joint committees are House and Senate together. Okay? And then finally, you have, I'm sorry, there's 5. A conference committee. Put a big star next to conference, just a bunch of questions about conference parties on your test. Conference committees, not conference parties. That sounds way more fun. Conference committees are looking at bills that pass the House that will be able to pass in the Senate. Okay, so conference committee is looking at actual bills that are in the House and how to change them so they actually pass the Senate. They have a ton of power. Yes, because there's never, ever, ever in the history of the world been a bill that's gone through the House that hasn't been touched by the Senate. Right? Because they're all doing what? Earmarks, and they're doing pork. They're trying to add stuff to get reelected. So, we're going to see that this is going to be changing it. Okay? Alright, here we go. Shaw versus Reno is a court case. I'm just going to be honest with you, this is the answer to like number 20 on the test. Shaw versus Reno is about a state legislator who approves a redistricting plan that draws district lines on the basis of race. This is like number 20 on your test. Okay, Shaw versus Reno, which we'll obviously talk about, but I didn't have time, so I'm just going to give you the answer, and I'll actually probably just remind you on the test what the answer is. Does that sound fair? Okay. Okay. All right. Now, the goal of the House and the Senate is to get things to whose desk? The president's desk, so the president can. But the president can also, no one gets it through the House and the Senate, so he gets veto. No one's like, yeah, veto all of our hard work. It is not gonna, what are you doing, you weirdo? Okay, models of representation. I'm telling you right now, there's a bunch of questions on this. Are you just being weird? Models of representation. Here you go. So, we have the delegate model, and I would write delegate, and then I'd write what it is. There are 4 models. There's a bunch of these on your test. There's 3 or 4 questions from just these models of representation. A delegate model is someone who acts on the wills and wishes of their constituency. Who are constituents? The voters. The people who voted them into office are the constituents. So we are the constituents to everyone who calls Tampa their home of our politicians. So the delegate mode, if the people want a new airport, right? We want a new airport. They went out and got us a new, with a very cute flamingo. Okay? A representative is your next category. They listen to their constituents, they hear what their complaints are, and then they use their best judgment on deciding to vote. So a delegate does whatever their constituents want. If the constituents want a new hospital, I don't think we need a new hospital, but if you want a hospital, I'll get you a hospital. A delegate, a representative will hear, well, I hear you want a new hospital, that's nice, but honestly, we really need a new school. So I hear your complaints about the hospital, but have you seen our schools? We need to do something about that. That is the trustee model. Sorry. It's trustee. I'm sorry. Yeah. It's trustee model. I'm keeping an eye on the clock because I'm trying to get it done. Okay. And then we have the Politico Model, which is a blending of the two. The Politico Model is they follow their own judgment until the public becomes vocal. The Politico Model is the most common. Okay? you typically see the most people get vocal right around this time. We're about 2 months out from from election day, and this is where constituents start voicing, and that's when you start seeing our politicians around here much more often. So while they're in DC, they're just kind of hanging out, doing their own thing. As it comes closer to election day, they're going to be coming out, oh my God, people in Florida, what do you want? Tell me, and I'll go back and bring it to you. Okay. Your girl worked so hard. So hard, but I did it. Okay, to the board, let's go. On your whiteboard, please tell me. The goal of the House and the Senate is to get a bill to whose desk? The goal of the House